In all of the scriptures, Jesus is depicted as a man of prayer. He spends the night in prayer. He'll go up the mountain before the transfiguration and will be in prayer. Before he raises Lazarus from the dead, he calls out to his Father that he would be with him, and then calls Lazarus from the tomb. And various other occasions in which Jesus is turning to the Father in prayer. And here in his last hour, in his agony in the garden, he also turns to his Father in prayer. Jesus is certainly a powerful man of prayer. His prayers are heard by God. And we would say that in all that he said and that he did came from his prayers. His whole heart, his whole mission was guided by the prayers of his life. And that the will of the Father and the will of the Son were perfectly aligned. That everything that the Father willed, the Son did, and everything that the Son willed, the Father did for him. He always answered the prayers of Jesus. Except in this one moment. In this one moment in the garden, Jesus says to his Father, Abba, Father, all things are possible to you. Let this cup pass me by. Take this cup away from me. Jesus prays fervently that the cup of suffering would pass him by, that he wouldn't have to endure the terrible agony, the insults, the pain, the suffering, the death that was about to be imposed upon him. And for the first time in his life, undoubtedly, the answer to his prayer was no. That God said to him no, in this case, that he would not give him what he wanted from, what he asked the Father to do. That can be our experience of prayer, I believe. All too often it seems that when we turn to God in prayer, either that God says no or he simply doesn't hear us at all, and we think, well, God doesn't listen to me, I'm not worthy enough, or maybe we even come to the conclusion there is no such thing as a God, and it's all a myth that people have made up. Our experience is often that God says no to us. But that no was interpreted in a new way for me by Father Thomas Keating, a Trappist monk who says that God always says yes to our prayers, but he says yes to our deepest prayer, which is to be transformed into the image and likeness of Christ. This is really what we want. After all, every prayer that we say is asking God to make us happy in some way, whatever way that we see in this particular moment. We turn to God and say, please God, give me what I need in order for me to be happy. And God always hears that prayer, and he always wants to answer it for us. But he knows that the deepest answer, the truest answer, is to make us into the image and likeness of his Son, Jesus Christ. That answer, of course, finally would come in the resurrection. Jesus, of course, doesn't only say, Father, let this cup pass me by, but he appends one phrase to it, but not as I will, but as you will. And this has to be the condition of every one of our prayers. We always have to say, not my will, Lord, but your will is to be done. And so while Jesus expressed what it was that he wanted, he knew that he could only have it if it was a part of the Father's will. God didn't say no to his Son Jesus, but he said yes to him in the resurrection. The answer to Jesus' prayer would be given to him in the resurrection. This is truly what God had planned for us. All of our prayers are answered by God, and they're all answered in the resurrection to new life.